What's going on? It's Jack here again, and today I'm going to talk about Amazon Australia like we do on the theme of this channel. Now, I know it's been a while since I've posted, but I have been dealing with some family stuff. I'm not going to get into details, but I'd like to say that I'm back and we're going to get back to the usual schedule. To start off this video, the idea actually came from me posting a question on my Instagram, and I asked, what did you guys want to see on my YouTube? Whether it's Amazon, dropshipping, anything e-commerce here in Australia, what do you guys want to see? Now, one of the first answers that I got from this question was actually from a follower of mine, Jake, and he said, why don't you talk about the main difference of why it's good to start in Amazon selling in Australia and what the differences is in the markets, and why I think it'd be better to start in the Aussie market. And I thought, what a great idea, because the whole reason and my sort of philosophy as to why I have recommended Amazon Australia and why I teach it specifically, as opposed to selling on the US and the UK or anywhere else in the world, why I think the Amazon marketplace here in Australia is just that slight better, especially for beginners. So we're going to jump straight into it, and I'm going to list off a few things and reel off some thoughts in my head, and it might actually help you guys in deciding what market to go to if you're looking to sell on Amazon. So I'm going to start off with some of the basics as to why I think Amazon Australia is better as opposed to Amazon US if you're just looking to start selling here on Amazon. So really the first thing, and these are the two main things that I think really set apart Amazon Australia as opposed to the US, because really it's been taught to sell in the US for a long time, and people who are starting to sell, or people who are even teaching it, they like to go towards the US because it's been around for so long. It's like the proven sort of marketplace, because there's so many people there. But that actually can be an upside for Australia. So first thing I'm going to talk about is the lifespan of Amazon US and the lifespan of Amazon Australia. So Amazon US launched, I think, in about 2006 from memory, and the FBA service, I could be wrong here, but the FBA service came shortly after that. So really we've had a big, long decade, 10 to 15 years of Amazon US being around, US being able to buy, all the customers in the US being able to buy online, and then having the seller, the FBA program there, the FBA service there in the US been available for so long. It's really allowed people to get their way around it, be familiar with it, buyers. It's the stat is like it's just over half, from memory, it's just over half of the people in the US, which is, I think off memory, it's 350 million in the US. 350 million, over half of them have an Amazon Prime account, which allows them to get free shipping and the 2-day delivery and even the same-day delivery and things like that. So that, on top of people being selling on that platform for so long, they sort of got a head start, and that's why it's such a proven market. Now, for Amazon Australia, the actual platform here in Australia, Amazon only launched at the end of 2017, along with their FBA service. I think coming up not long after the actual website itself launched, the actual platform for us to be able to buy launched at the end of 2017. So it's only been a few years that we've been able to get ourselves on there. Now, on top of that, not as many people in Australia really know to shop on Amazon. For us, it's like things like eBay being the top one, and then there's Gumtree, I think, is the second biggest one here. Then you've got like Facebook Marketplaces, what a lot of people use as well. So really, when it comes to Aussies and it comes to shopping online, when you think of shopping online, if you're looking for something cheap, if you're looking for deals, the first place that a lot of Aussies think is not really Amazon. It's really, get it from eBay or go to Gumtree or just go on a Facebook Marketplace, see if you can buy it there. So that can be a downfall if you think about it. Depends on what way you think about it, but what I like to think about is, okay, we're in the super early days of Amazon. Now these days in 2020, Amazon's about number 4 or 5 on that list of top sites that people go to sell in. But as of COVID, it's actually, it's jumped up a little bit as well. So more and more people, and as Amazon starts to advertise here in Australia, more and more people are jumping on the Amazon bandwagon. And that's just not with buying. Slowly, it's getting, people starting to sell on the platform as now. But the buyers highly outweigh the sellers. More people, there's always going to be more buyers than sellers, just put it that way. But not only that, Australia only has 25 to I think 27 million people in the country, and you're never going to get that same sales velocity. But in saying that, if we're compared to the US, you're not going to get that same sales velocity and that same customer base, because if you're comparing that, 25 or 27 million compared to the 350 million in the US, you can see that it's always going to outweigh. We're never going to have that same customer base as the US. But in saying that, because we're so early in the process, that actually gives so many people the opportunity as a beginner to get on there and start selling, because now there's enough people on the platform, there's enough people buying on the platform that it's sort of getting to the point where it's viable to have an online business on that platform, and there's enough people buying on there where you can actually get enough stock in to keep continually selling, get enough products on there to actually create an income out of it. And not only that, it's not just about the income that you can create out of it, it's that the fact that it's so new, you've actually got so much more leeway and it's not as competitive to get into that market. So that's my whole philosophy when it comes to Amazon Australia, and that's why I like to push it so much, you know, when it comes to e-commerce, because myself, when I started selling on Amazon, this was early 2017, and well, it was even as early as late 2016 that I started looking into this whole thing. And back then Amazon Australia wasn't around, so I was selling on the US as well, and that's where I first started. Now, in saying that, from my experiences of selling on the US and now moving more so onto Amazon Australia, I've seen the differences, not just in my own selling, but in my students now as well, because now I solely work on growing other people's sales, growing my student sales and helping them out. I've seen the differences from when I was selling to now when I'm selling on the Aussie market to when they're selling on the Aussie market now. You can see that there's just not as much competition when it comes to selling. Now, some people might think that's a bad thing because, okay, that means there's not as many people buying. But in saying that, you don't have to put as much money up front to really start doing things like rankings. So you don't have to go crazy on things like giveaways. You don't have to go crazy on things like buying tons and tons of reviews to start ranking. It's a lot easier for a beginner now, especially with me. I realized that I had to spend a lot more, not a lot more, but more than what I initially thought when I was selling in the US. Then, you know, when I first started, I thought, okay, you know, put a little bit of money into it, but more money went into things like promotions and giveaways and a lot of out of pocket than, you know, what I initially thought, because there's so much competition. It got to the point where, okay, I ended up selling a beauty product. When I found this beauty product, it was basically, there was maybe about 2 or 3 listings that were similar, and I thought, sweet, I'll get into it and I'll try and compete with the market. And the whole process of talking to the supplier and then getting my product out there, getting the label, getting it shipped, getting it ready to sell, that probably took around 20 to 30 days. By the time I got my listing up, there was like another 5 or 6 listings at minimum that were already launched on there. So I not only had to compete with 4 or 5 different listings, I now had to compete with like 10 or more listings, and that was in the space of 30 days. So that's how quickly things move over in the US. Now, the same thing's gonna happen in Amazon Australia, but not to that same extent. And that's really a big selling point for me when it comes to e-commerce here in Australia, because not only that, I found that Aussies, when it comes to e-commerce, even in terms of drop shipping, even in terms of selling on eBay, Aussies, the whole Aussie market is a little bit late on the bandwagon when it comes to online selling. Now, you can actually use that to your advantage because people are still buying online. It's just the whole selling. Even people buying online, they're a bit late to the bandwagon. If you're comparing it to the US, that is. So we're actually doing quite well now with all COVID and everything. That's actually pushed more people to buy online. But from what I've found, you know, as opposed to the US, people in the US they're right on it. They're obviously, if you're comparing different parts of the world, there's other countries that are more advanced than the US. But people in the US they're pretty much accustomed to the idea of, okay, I'll probably get this item in the next day or two. I'll go and shop on Amazon. They're used to like ordering something from Pizza Hut and then having like a little robot deliver it, you know, on wheels. So they're used to that stuff. They're used to this more, I guess, advanced tech when it comes to shopping online, making it a lot easier to shop. Where Aussies, they have, you know, and I was born in Australia, so of course I grew up with it as well. I have noticed that we're a bit later on the bandwagon, and we're now only just starting to get used to the fact of shopping online, this quicker service delivery. Now we're slowly getting in more Amazon warehouses, so I think they're starting to build one in Brisbane, which is where I currently reside. And that'll be, I think, the 5th warehouse in Australia, which is moving along quite fast, and it's faster than what I expected. But you can use this to your advantage, because what I'm thinking is, and this is what goes into my head when I think about e-commerce in Australia, especially Amazon selling, since we're talking about Amazon in this video. Basically what you need to think of is, okay, even though it's a slow start, if you're comparing it to Amazon US, even though it's a slow start, you can actually jump on this opportunity and you can actually get into selling. Like, let's just say if you were to launch a brand back in, say, 2017, 2018, which what some of my students did, they had such a leapfrog sort of head start into building their brand, into the niche that they liked, into the niche that they were passionate about on Amazon. Before that, you know, sort of more and more sellers and bigger waves of sellers come in and start being more demanding on the competition and more demanding on you for quality, more demanding on you for price and things like that. Because that's all that's going to happen. When more people start to come and buy, that means slowly more people will start to come and sell. Obviously, the buyers are always going to outweigh the sellers, but you have to think of it in the sense that there's going to be more competition. You're going to push for better quality product, push for better price, push for better delivery times, all that kind of thing. All that competition does is just make it so that you need to make sure that you're always on your toes, make sure that your product is high quality, make sure that you're taking care of your customers, things like that. So it's very, very basic stuff. But I always think now, in these days, it's actually a lot more viable to start, especially if you're an Aussie. I think really you have a head start if you're looking to sell in Amazon Australia, because not only that, you're going to know who your target markets are. If you've lived in Australia, if you were born there, even if you're not born in Australia but you reside here now, you've got a little bit more of an edge because you know what the people are into, you know sort of what Aussies are like, their personalities and whatnot. So I think you've got a good opportunity with that. So especially if you reside in Australia, which I think a lot of you guys watching this, you most likely do. But I know that I have a few US watchers in here as well. Even if you don't live in Australia, it's still a great opportunity in my opinion, because you don't have that full-on like competition, because it's like in every niche, especially if you want to sell in the fitness niche, good luck selling in the fitness niche in the US unless it's a very refined niche that not a lot of people sell in and it's still got demand. You've got a lot more competition. Like let's just say if you want to sell a yoga mat here in Australia, it's going to be a lot more viable for you to do that than in the US. There are thousands of sellers selling yoga mats that are already successful, and you know, long yoga mats, short yoga mats, like different shaped yoga mats. There's just so much competition, as in Australia, you've got a bit more of an opportunity to squeeze yourself in there, get that piece of the pie. But it's getting more and more competitive, you know, as the years go on. And I'd say by 2025, well, I would say maybe we'll start getting to see that peak in Amazon Australia, and really have it in contention to things like eBay Australia and things like that. So that's just something to think about as well. I would say it's a bit of a better opportunity, especially if you're an Aussie, it's a better opportunity to sell as opposed to the US. Now, one last thing I actually wanted to talk about was when it comes to brand building. This is actually where you can set yourself apart here in Australia. What I've found, and this is more so becoming apparent in the US, but it's always been apparent in Australia. Now, Aussies are really big on brand. They've always been really big on brand, what I found anyway, because I used to work in retail myself, and they're always big on brand. Now, I know over in the US they're big on brands. Of course, you know, being humans in general, we're big on brands, but I've seen that people in the US, they are less opposed to buying like your off-brand products, and they're less opposed to going for the cheaper side of things. From what I've seen anyway, they're okay with doing like the off-brand stuff, and they're okay with spending a little bit less. Maybe they're okay with a little bit of lesser quality. Now in Australia, they're big on brands. They want to get their best bang for their buck. They want to make sure that they're getting high quality thing, because they don't want to have to deal with like a crappy quality product. They want to make sure that the brand that they're buying from is trusted, and you can use that to your advantage. And that's what I've always been talking about. That's what I talk about in the Ecom Excellence course, which is my own course. If you guys didn't know, I do offer a course as well. I'm not going to talk about that today, but it will be linked down below if you do want to check out more about that. It's all about Amazon Australia. So I talk about that, brand building, and I just talk a lot about how that is going to help you if you're looking to sell Amazon here in Australia, because Aussies are really big on trusting brands, and it doesn't have to be like a massive brand like Nike, Adidas, or anything like that. If you are, you know, in the midst of, let's just say you want to sell a fitness product or you want to sell a beauty product, you can start by slowly growing your brand on Amazon, and then you can actually slowly get it to the point where it's like a well-known brand on Amazon. And the good part about selling on Amazon, which a lot of people don't realize, is if you're playing the long game, if let's just say in the next 3 to 5 years, if you constantly just pick 1, maybe 2 products and you focus on selling that in a niche that's in demand, and you grow your brand, you'll be a well-known brand on Amazon in time. And a lot of people don't realize that, and that gives you so many benefits down the line, not just in product sales, but in the strength of your brand, and actually in owning a brand. And you can get to the point where you can even down the line sell that brand, sell that business, move on to something else, or even branch out. Just say you're in the fitness industry, you could move over to, say, like the supplement industry. You could still be in that health and fitness niche, and a lot of people don't realize that. So if you're really serious about building an online brand, building an e-commerce like an e-commerce brand and selling online, you can't think of like you can't think of short term where, okay, I'll get these products in, I'll sell them in 30 days, make my profit, get out of there, things like that. You can't think like that. You got to think, okay, I'm gonna make a brand that people are gonna like, I'm gonna make high quality products, I'm gonna look at products that help people, and then I'm going to slowly grow my brand and branch out. Because if you create that, if you think of things long term, you're gonna have long term success. If you're thinking about e-commerce business that is actually going to make an impact on your life, potentially change your life in a sense, then you got to think about it long term. So I'm going to leave that video here, guys. But if you're looking to sell on Amazon, I would highly suggest you get into Amazon here in Australia. There's so many more benefits, and I have other videos on my channel which you can check out, which I go more in depth on doing things like, how to get your shipment into the Amazon warehouse, looking for products, all that basic stuff. I talk about that here on this channel. But if you have any questions for me, comment down below. Even get in contact with me on Facebook or email me. I've got the links down below. If you have any questions, let me know. If you do want to see other videos like this, also let me know. Give this video a like, sub to the channel. We're almost at 5K subs, so I'm pretty happy about that. I hope you guys are doing well, staying safe. I'll see you guys in the next one.